We are here for another wrestling rant. This weekly update on a wrestling that I consumed over the past week. It's from AEW as well as WWE and anything else that fell in between. I know a lot of my rants about wrestling lately, especially with AEW, has been like a lot of negative things. It's not, and please don't label as with all AEW haters, that and the third. No, I just don't like nonsense. I don't like nonsense. I don't care who does it. If it's nonsense, I'm gonna call the nonsense. And I tell you, it's a lot of nonsense in that other company right now. So I'll get that glare off. So first off bat, we're gonna talk about SmackDown and what transpired on there. Like, I think we knew it was gonna happen. Jey Uso lost the title, and Braun Breaker's the new champ. It's giving way for Jey to reunite with the Bloodline and go through that whole thing. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I'm looking forward to it. But I hope once the Bloodline once they do their thing, they give them some singles runs. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Jey be IC champ again. I wouldn't mind seeing Jimmy be United States champion. Why not have them have all the gold for a little bit, and then work out some new stories or whatever for them. But yeah, on Raw, Seth Rollins is back. Him and Bronson Reed were just going at it like crazy, which was good. It was real good to see Seth back, and to see the way they're building up Bronson Reed, man. They're making him an absolute monster, which they should. They need a big monster heel on Raw right now. They need it in general, big monster heels, but yeah, I think it's a good start with Bronson Reed. Also, another thing I'm glad about too, I'm glad they're giving Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson some shine on the main program. Although they gotta it's funny, they gotta act like they bought tickets to be there. I'm like, wait a minute, y'all wrestlers, y'all gotta buy tickets. Whatever. But I'm glad they're letting them shine a little bit, and they're actually gonna be at Crown Jewel, which is dope. But NXT making their way to a PLE, which is dope. I'm here for that. So that was pretty much just the big takeaways from Raw. I mean, you got the Liv and Rhea Ripley stuff still going on, which I'm here for that. That's still holding my attention. Pretty much that was it, my highlights for Raw. Now we move on to NXT, which I saw not all of it, but I did watch I watched Obafemi. That dude's impressive. He's impressive. I hope once he gets his call up to the main roster, he does something big. And another thing too, the whole little love thing, they're trying to incorporate him with Nikita Lyons. She just got back. I'm like, good grief. I'm like, all right, I'm over the love angles, period. Not really my thing. But that was NXT. That's all I called it at. I didn't really watch much NXT. I was in and out of sleep. Then we got Dynamite. Boy, do we have Dynamite. Now, Shelton Benjamin looked good against Sammy Guevara. He looked good. He was supposed to. He's twice Sammy's size. I think he gave a little bit too much to Sammy Guevara, but at the same time, Shelton did make himself look good in the matchup because he's a professional. Then we got the rest of the nonsense. This whole Moxley thing, I don't care. I don't get it. Why is he trying to be we're so tough and we're this, we're that, this, that, and the third? I'm like, why are you talking in riddles, man? No. You're talking in riddles, you're talking in circles, no one cares. You're doing all, we're taking AEW back. Back from who? Back from the EVPs? Didn't they do this already with Tony Khan? Didn't they take the company from him, allegedly, and now you're taking it back from them? So who's in charge here? Who is in charge? And it's so ridiculous. And that's not even it. That's the most ridiculous part of all the ridiculousness. But there's the other ridiculous things too. I mean, Kyle Fletcher cutting his hair. I'm like, but why? You're in the ring. I don't want to be anything like you. Said it like 8 times. This is not a Mike Jones song. You ain't gotta repeat yourself that much. It's just so over the top and so overdone and unnecessary. You got random luchas who are being managed by Jake the Snake. I'm like, what? Like, when does this even happen? Like, when did Jake the Snake learn how to speak Spanish? But you know, that's something else that's just out of this world ridiculous. That's mostly happening on Rampage and Collision, and I don't know if I can even watch those anymore because they're just getting way worse. With another thing with Dynamite, you got I don't understand this booking is stupid. You got Mercedes. She had a match with Queen Aminata last week, but her bodyguard's gonna fight her this past week. I mean, she had a match with Queen Aminata a week before, and her bodyguard fought her this past week. Do you fight the henchman first, then the big star? What is going on here? Why are they doing this in reverse? And it's a ridiculous reverse too. So as we continue with our rant, again, I'm not trying to bash AEW. That's not the point. The point is, if it sucks, it sucks. Good grief. And I'm gonna call it out. I'll call it like I see it, especially when it comes to things that I thoroughly enjoy, which is wrestling. I thoroughly enjoy wrestling, so I'm gonna call out the nonsense when I see it. And so, like I said, with the whole Mercedes and Camille and Queen Aminata, I don't understand why she fought Mercedes first and then fought Camille after. That makes zero sense. We got then the worst of the worst, Jericho. He's a new Ring of Honor champion for reasons unknown to any person with sense. He's a Ring of Honor champion. Why? Why on earth would you give Jericho that title? Now, I'm not the hugest Mark Briscoe fan. I'm just not. He reminds me too much of. He reminds me a lot of Nick Gage. He reminds me of that guy, and I'm like, I think they're just a knuckleheads to do that deathmatch stuff. I'm like, good grief, man! All the time, it's so dumb. But he reminds me of that guy. However, I will say this: Mark Briscoe does have some charisma, and I can, see him and like a hardcore or being a hardcore specialist. I can definitely see that. But for him and Jericho to have a ladder match and Jericho wins, it's the goal. Jericho has what they call in the wrestling business go home heat. Like, go away. Like, get him off my TV. I don't want to see him. I change the channel when he comes on, or I'll fall asleep. One of the two. Typically, it's change the channel, then I fall asleep because I've had enough of it. I had to watch this Dynamite 3 times to get through it all. When Jericho came on my screen, I immediately got drowsy. I got so tired when he came up. When the Young Bucks were up there, when they fought, when the Young Bucks came on my screen, again, immediately tired. I'm like, oh, they suck. They do the same match. They kick out of 900 moves. They do the little stupid knees and their little goofy finisher. And that's it. And they win. So they basically buried Private Party because the Bucks won, of course. And I don't know why. And then the BBC comes in and beats up everyone else. The end. That is the end of Dynamite. It is ridiculous. This hostile takeover that Moxley and crew got going on is not working. This show is a hot mess. And I don't know where it's going. But anyway, one of the things that made me feel really good about wrestling is SmackDown, where the matches were the matches. I was zoning in and out of those. But then we got the Bloodline. Yes, the Bloodline. And guess who's back in the fold? We got Jay. Jay and Jimmy hugged it out after Jay came to the rescue. They fought off. Roman and Jimmy fought off Jacob and Solo. And then the Tongans lost the tag titles, which good. I'm glad they lost. I'm glad they're not the champs anymore. Not too sure about the new champs. I mean, you know, they got there. This is their second, third match. They're champs. Okay, all right. But we'll see how the Motor City team does. We'll see how they do. Then we got, like I said, back to the Bloodline stuff. So yep, Jay basically cost the Tongans the tag titles, and then Jay and Jimmy hugged it out. It was such a good feeling. Like, they're back together. But I do hope they give them their solo runs. I wouldn't mind seeing Jimmy have the U.S. title, Jay being the Intercontinental IC champ again. I want them to have their singles runs and then come back as a tag team again. So I'm all for the Bloodline reunion. I'm all for that. But like I said, I didn't watch Rampage. I won't give that the time of day at all. And I couldn't watch Collision. No, it just was not happening. I couldn't do it either. And after Dynamite, I'm like, I can't watch it. It's like it's painful, and it is embarrassing to watch as a wrestling fan. And every time I watch Dynamite, and I have it on, my wife looks at it. She was like, "What is this?" She's like, "What is this?" And she's not a big wrestling fan. She grew up watching wrestling during the Attitude Era. But I think everyone watched during that time period if you're of a certain age. But when she sees AEW, she's like, "Oh, that's the bootleg wrestling." As someone who isn't a wrestling fan, I've taken her to an indie show before. She had fun there. It's like, "Oh, that was neat." She looked at that. That looks like an indie show to her. The AEW looks like an indie show. This is a bootleg show. It looks ultra bootleg. And as someone who isn't a wrestling fan says, "Oh, this show looks low budget," then your show looks low budget, man. People who don't like it say it looks low budget. People who don't care about it say it looks low budget. Maybe you look low budget. I mean, Tony Khan has the money. I mean, get some better production value. Don't go into arenas and just sit and so your smaller crowds are that much more noticeable. I mean, man, there's nothing wrong with packing out a theater or something like that versus a stadium where you got maybe like 2,000-3,000 people in a place that sits like almost 20. It looks bad. Looks real bad. So that's my week in wrestling. Let me know your good, the bad, the ugly that you witnessed yourself. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We out here trying to grow our channels and everything like that. TikTok is doing good. Always again, like, share, and subscribe. Same thing with YouTube, Facebook, all the platforms, y'all. We need all the support we can get. And again, let me know what you got in the comments below. Peace.